Earthlings. Finally read it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Didn't think it was that weird. We'll talk about it. I have been told 100 times over how disgustingly strange this book is. So I don't know if mentally I built it up so much in my mind that it was never going to be that bad, or maybe I'm just a twisted freak and I'm desensitized to things like this. It didn't feel that weird. It really, really didn't. And more than anything, the strange stuff in this book, it was impossible to take it at face value because it was so clearly just a symbol for things that aren't socially acceptable, because the book is just really a very thoughtful conversation about dimensions of culture and how collectivism isn't for everyone, which I thought was a really well done, very intelligent book. Like, this is already in my top 3 of the year so far. Like, I had a great time with this. But weird? Nah, I can think of stranger books. Of course, trigger warnings and spoiler warnings are in full effect. If you are someone who doesn't want to read about incest, cannibalism, paedophilia, there's a lot of very serious topics in this book, but I don't know, they're delved into in a way that is clearly much more of like an extended metaphor. Like, not to say that they don't happen, but it's more like, I don't know, it's more irreverent than real life. The book is very flippant, and so I wasn't taking the serious topics as deeply as maybe I should have done. You know, it's a very Orwellian parable about modern society. It was very, it was like a dark reflection on the life of a nonconformist, especially if you are living in a modern collectivistic culture like Japan, where everybody depends on one another and expects everybody to act a certain way for the greater good of the group. And so I think for a Western audience, this really rings true. I think there could have been a more balanced take on collectivism, because there are obviously some positives to it, or you wouldn't have vast swathes of the world still practicing it. The book seemed very decided that collectivism is a terrible thing, which, you know, I would just say maybe it's not for everyone. Our main character, Natsuki, believes she's an alien. Well, actually, at first she doesn't believe she's an alien. She just thinks her cousin Yu is an alien and that she's a magician. But then later on, she's like, no, I'm an alien as well. And this alien species, oh, it's very difficult to pronounce. I still don't think I'm doing it right. It's like Popians. Very tricky stuff. And at first you kind of think like, oh, it's just childhood imagination, especially after there's these really horrible sequences where her teacher takes advantage of her when she's only like 11 years old, and it's very upsetting. I did appreciate, though, the way that this writer doesn't embellish traumatizing events, because sometimes writers, they have a tendency to take something that's really dark and glamour it up into something profound, and then that kind of takes away it gives it some emotional levity. I liked that this writer was very matter of fact, was very raw and unfiltered in the depiction of SA, and that made it much more impactful. So, you know, pat on the back for that. Oh, and while we're giving out praise, can we talk about this cover? Whoever designed this cover, congratulations, because I'm trying to remember the last time I saw like a paperback that looked so captivating. Like, looking at that on the shelf, it just looks fun. Like, I love this this colour as well, this very bright green. It's so cute. Loved as well how pervasive that childhood trauma was in her life. It sounds so terrible when I say it like that, but what I mean is, sometimes in books, characters go through really traumatic things, and then chapters and chapters later, when they're much older, they've seemingly got over it and it's never an issue again, which never sits right with me. So I liked that this thing that had happened to her was very formative, even 23 years into the future, when she's married and she has this like non-physical relationship with her husband because her mouth feels dead. Like, it was very deep. I was like, Oh, even if this wasn't also like a political satire, if it was just like a deep drama, it would have also been successful because the writing was that good. So the fact that it was able to deliver on both, bravo. But yes, it was very Big Brother. They refer to the society that everyone practices as the factory, with the two main goals being devoting yourself to work throughout your life and also making babies, the baby factory. You know, I've got to put my testes with your womb and we've got to make a child. And it was just, I love that it perfectly blended silliness, like the way that they were talking about the factory, like, oh, we're never going to be part of the factory. Even in the Western world, in the modern age, it's incredibly difficult to follow individualism and just be, because there are people all around you breathing down your neck with expectations of what you're supposed to do based on what everybody else has done. And I like that this book was able to tap into that in a way that was so creative. And it was really nice as well that Natsuki, she didn't have a dream, you know, because I was worried that this book was going to fall into almost sort of like Western propaganda, where she was going to have an American dream style goal, where like, oh, she really wants to be a real estate agent, or you know, she really wants to have a farm with rabbits. Like, I don't need that, and I'm glad that she didn't need that. She just wanted to be, you know, she just wanted to not have to feel the external pressures of friends, family, everyone expecting her to be something else, you know? I do wish Piet had featured more. Again, I feel like I'm saying that name wrong. Piet is this. It's the hedgehog plush, which, where can I get one of these? I'm not the biggest plush fan. I blame my parents. My mum was like, they're dust collectors, don't have plushes. But I kind of want a Piet. Where do I get a Piet? But no, I think Piet should have been in the book more. If there had been more sequences where she was just talking to her stuffed hedgehog toy and her family were just looking at her like, oh, she's crazy. You know, it was very chocky, that like John Wyndham novel where the boy has like his alien imaginary friend that's like talking to him. It was like, ooh, creepy, creepy. I suppose the ending, like the last 50 pages, is where the strangeness really amps up and this book gets such a reputation for being weird, because Natsuki, her husband, and her cousin Yu, they all sort of run away together to like the Akashinia village that's mostly abandoned, and as their situation gets more and more unlivable, they start sort of spiraling more and more into debauchery, where the point is just like, oh, let's just, you know, kill people and let's eat them and let's walk around naked. Like, it was interesting. It was very interesting. I still don't believe that this book is as weird as people are making it out to be. Everything felt very intentional and smart. Like, I wouldn't say that this book was weird for the sake of being weird, because there are plenty of books that do that and I don't like it. What's great about this is there was purpose. It was sparingly weird, you know, it was doing it because it had something to say. It wasn't just trying to get a reaction out of us. So that was Earthlings. I have a feeling this isn't going to be my last post about Sayaka Murata. I think she's going to be one of those authors that, you know, I'm going to need a whole shelf. And I'm excited about that, because this, I really, really enjoyed it. I still don't think it's that weird. That will be my hill to die on if all of you in the comments are like, what do you mean? It's so weird. But it was really enjoyable. Love this book.